Maya Thompson, a 28-year-old woman with warm brown skin and expressive dark eyes, woke up in the guest room of Ethan Cole's sleek, modern apartment. The soft hum of the city filtered through the window, but her heart pounded with the weight of the text she'd received the night before from Jerome, her abusive ex-boyfriend. The words burned in her mind. Did you think you could hide behind him forever? At 30 years old, with light skin and a calm, steady demeanor, Ethan had become her rock, but the message reminded her that her past wasn't done. Chasing her. The morning light spilled across the hardwood floor as Maya sat on the edge of the bed, her hands trembling slightly. She wasn't the same frightened woman who had fled Jerome 2 years ago, but his words still had a way of clawing into her resolve. Taking a deep breath, she stood smoothing her curly hair and went to the kitchen where Ethan was already brewing coffee. His green eyes met hers with a quiet intensity, a silent question hanging between them. "Are you okay?" "I'm done running," Maya said, her voice firm, despite the tremor in her chest. "We need to push for that restraining order. Today." Ethan nodded, setting down his mug. "I'll call my lawyer and get in touch with the police. We'll make sure Jerome can't come near you." His tone was steady, but there was a protective edge to it that made Maya feel both safe and uneasy. She trusted Ethan, but a small part of her wondered if she was leaning on him too much. As they sat down to plan, Ethan's assistant, Nicole, a 35-year-old woman with fair skin and a no-nonsense attitude, arrived with a stack of documents. She said, "I've got the paperwork ready and am handing Maya a folder. But there's something else. Ethan asked me to dig into Jerome's background a while back. I found some things, arrest records, complaints from other women. He's got a history." Maya froze, her fingers tightening on the folder. "You investigated him without telling me." Her voice rose sharp with betrayal. She turned to Ethan, her dark eyes flashing. "You think I can't handle my own problems? Do I need you to swoop in and fix everything?" Ethan's face fell, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. "Maya, I didn't mean to overstep. I only wanted to ensure we knew what we were dealing with for your safety and the company's. Jerome's been lurking around, and I couldn't risk him hurting you or anyone else." The room grew heavy with tension. Maya's heart raced between gratitude and the sting of having her privacy invaded. "She said you should have told me," her voice softer, but still edged with hurt. "I'm not some damsel who needs saving, Ethan." He stepped closer, his expression earnest. "I know you're not. I messed up, and I'm sorry. I should have been up front. From now on, you're in charge. Whatever you want to do about Jerome, I'll follow your lead." His sincerity disarmed her. Maya took a shaky breath, her anger easing. "Okay," she said finally, "but no more secrets. If we're doing this, we do it together." Ethan nodded, a small smile breaking through. Together. They spent the afternoon poring over the legal documents, Maya's pen hovering over the restraining order application. Ethan's gaze lingered on her as she signed her name, filled with quiet pride. "You're stronger than you know," he said softly. Maya met his eyes, a flicker of warmth cutting through her nerves. "I'm starting to believe that." The moment was broken by the sharp ring of the office phone on Ethan's desk. Maya answered, expecting a routine call. Instead, there was only silence on the other end, followed by heavy, deliberate breathing. Her stomach dropped. She glanced at Ethan, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's him. I know it's him." Ethan's jaw tightened as he took the phone, listening for a moment before hanging up. "He said we're getting that number traced, and we're already dialing security. He's not getting away with this." Maya couldn't shake the unease that clung to her as the day drew to a close. The anonymous call felt like a shadow creeping closer, a reminder that Jerome was still watching. But as she looked at Ethan, who was already coordinating with the police, she felt a spark of resolve. She wasn't alone anymore, and she wouldn't let fear win. If you love Maya and Ethan's journey, don't forget to give this story a thumbs up drop, a comment with your thoughts, and hit that subscribe button to stay updated on their adventure. Your support keeps the story alive. The morning after the chilling phone call, Maya sat at her desk in the bustling office of Coal Industries, her fingers hovering over her keyboard. The police had confirmed that Jerome had been served the restraining order, but they also delivered unsettling news he'd vanished. There was no trace of him at his last known address or activity on his accounts. The absence felt more ominous than his presence, like a storm gathering just out of sight. As Maya tried to focus on her work, a delivery arrived at her desk, a small unmarked package wrapped in plain brown paper. Her heart sank as she opened it, revealing a delicate silver necklace, its pendant glinting under the office lights. She recognized it instantly, the same one she'd worn years ago when she was still with Jerome. Her hands trembled as she dropped it back into the box, memories of his controlling grip flooding back. How had he gotten this into the building? She called Ethan immediately, her voice tight and panicked. He was here, Ethan, or someone working for him. This necklace, it's from him. Ethan arrived within minutes, his expression a mix of concern and determination. I'm calling security to lock down the building, he said already on his phone. No one gets in or out without being checked, and we're reviewing every camera feed. As security swept the premises, Maya felt the weight of curious stares from her colleagues. Whispers had begun to circulate, fueled by Clara, a new employee with a sharp tongue and an envious streak. In her late 20s, Clara had been dropping hints that Maya was receiving special treatment because of her connection to Ethan. During a team meeting, Clara's frustration boiled over. Standing up, she crossed her arms and fixed Maya with a pointed look. So what's it like being the office princess, getting all this attention just because some guy's stalking you? The room went silent. Maya's cheeks burned, her fists clenching under the table. I'm not asking for any of this. Clara, she said, her voice steady despite the sting. I'm trying to do my job same as you, Clara scoffed, tossing her hair. Sure, but not everyone gets the CEO personally handling their drama. Must be nice. Before Maya could respond, Ethan stepped in, his tone calm but firm. That's enough, Clara. The security measures are for everyone's safety, not just Maya's. If you have concerns, bring them to me privately. His words shut down the conversation, but the damage was done. Maya felt exposed, like a spotlight had been turned on her worst fears. Later in Ethan's office, he apologized. He said, I should have anticipated the rumors, running a hand through his hair. I didn't mean for you to feel singled out. Maya sighed, staring at the necklace now sealed in a plastic bag for the police. It's not just the rumors. It's this, she said, gesturing to the box. He's in my head, Ethan. He knows where I work, what I care about. How am I supposed to feel safe? Ethan knelt beside her, his hand resting gently on hers. You're not alone in this. We'll figure out how he got that package here and stop him. I promise. Maya nodded, but the knot in her stomach didn't loosen. She wanted to believe him, but the necklace felt like a message Jerome was closer than they thought. That evening, Ethan called her to the security office. The head of security, a gruff man named Harris, pulled footage from the building's exterior cameras. The grainy video showed a man in a hooded jacket lingering near the entrance the previous night. His face was obscured, but his tense, deliberate posture sent a chill down Maya's spine. Harris said, We can't confirm it's him, but we're sending this to the police. Ethan's jaw tightened as he studied the screen. He's playing games, but he's not as smart as he thinks. Maya stared at the frozen image of the hooded figure, her mind racing. Was it Jerome? Or was she seeing threats where there were none? The uncertainty gnawed at her, but Ethan's presence grounded her. "What if he got inside?" she asked quietly. "Then we'll find him," Ethan said, his voice unwavering. "And we'll make sure he never gets near you again." Maya's phone buzzed with a notification as they left the security office. She glanced at it, expecting an email from work. Instead, it was a photo sent from an unknown number, a blurry shot of the coal industries building taken from across the street. No message, just the image. Her breath caught, and she showed it to Ethan. His eyes darkened as he took her hand. "We're not letting him win, Maya. Not now, not ever." The sterile glow of fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Maya sat at her desk in coal industries, sifting through financial reports for an upcoming project. Her focus wavered the memory of the mysterious package and its chilling contents, the necklace from her past with Jerome still lingering like a shadow. She pushed it aside, determined to reclaim her normalcy, but a stray document caught her eye. Tucked among the spreadsheets was a record of a substantial donation from Ethan's personal account to a local organization called Haven House, a shelter for women escaping domestic violence. The amount was staggering. The date was months before she'd even met Ethan. Curiosity piqued Maya. Hesitated, then typed the organization's name into her browser. The website detailed their mission, providing safety and support for survivors of abuse. A lump formed in her throat. Why had Ethan never mentioned this? Was it just philanthropy, or was there something personal behind it? Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, torn between respecting his privacy and needing to understand. That evening, she found Ethan in his office, the city skyline glittering through the window behind him. "I saw the donation to Haven House," she said, her voice cautious but direct. "It's a lot of money, Ethan. Why didn't you tell me you were involved with something like that?" Ethan's expression softened, but a flicker of discomfort crossed his face. He leaned back in his chair, exhaling. "It's not something I talk about often," he said. "My cousin Sarah went through a bad relationship years ago. Really bad. I helped her get out and get safe, supporting places like Haven House. It's personal for me." Maya's chest tightened. The revelation explained Ethan's fierce protectiveness and unwavering commitment to her safety. But it also stirred a new fear. "So is that what I am to you?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Another Sarah? Someone you need to save to make up for the past?" Ethan's eyes widened, and he stood crossing the room to her. "No, Maya. That's not it at all." His voice was earnest, almost pleading. "What happened to Sarah made me care about this issue, but I'm here for you. Not because you're a project, but because I believe in you. I care about you." The words hit her hard, stirring a mix of relief and doubt. "Then why does it feel like you're trying to fix me?" She snapped, her emotions spilling over. "I'm not broken, Ethan. I don't need you to swoop in and make everything right." He flinched, but his gaze held steady. "I know you're not broken. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met. I see what you're up against and want to help you fight. If I overstepped, I'm sorry. I'll back off if that's what you want." The sincerity in his voice chipped away at her defenses. Maya sank into a chair, her anger deflating. "I don't want you to back off," she admitted quietly. "I just need to know you see me as me, not some victim." Ethan knelt beside her, his hand hovering near hers, but not touching, respecting her space. "I see you, Maya. I know the woman who stood up to Jerome fighting for her life. I'm not here to fix you. I'm here because I want to be by your side." The room grew quiet, the weight of his words settling between them. Maya's eyes stung, but she blinked back the tears. "Okay," she said finally. But you have to let me lead sometimes. I need to do this my way. He nodded, a small smile breaking through. Deal. The next day, Ethan suggested they visit Haven House. He said you don't have to, but it might help you see what I mean. Reluctantly, Maya agreed. The shelter was a modest building with warm lighting and walls adorned with encouraging quotes. Inside, Maya met women of all backgrounds, each with stories of survival that echoed her own. One woman, Lisa, shared how Haven House had helped her rebuild after escaping an abusive partner. It's not about being saved, Lisa said, her voice steady. It's about finding the strength you already have. Maya listened, her heart swelling with a mix of pain and hope. She glanced at Ethan, who stood quietly, letting her take it all in. For the first time, she understood that his support wasn't about pity, but belief in her resilience. As they left, she reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. I get it now, she said softly. Thank you for showing me. Ethan's smile was warm, but Maya's phone buzzed in her pocket before he could respond. She pulled it out, her breath catching at the sight of a new message from an unknown number. He can't protect you forever. Her hand shook as she showed it to Ethan, whose expression darkened. That's it, he said, his voice low and resolute. We're taking this to the police. Now. As they drove to the station, Maya's mind raced. The message wasn't just a threat, but a sign that Jerome was still watching, possibly with help. Ethan's grip on the steering wheel tightened, and she noticed the tension in his jaw. What if someone's feeding him information? He said, almost to himself. Someone close. Maya's stomach twisted. The idea of a traitor within their circle was almost as terrifying as Jerome himself. She looked at Ethan, his profile sharp against the passing city lights. We'll figure it out, she said, echoing his earlier words. Together. But as they pulled into the police station, the weight of the unknown pressed heavier. Someone was helping Jerome, and until they knew who, nowhere felt safe. The air in the coal industries office felt thick with unspoken tension as Maya sat at her desk, her eyes scanning the latest threatening message from the unknown number. He can't protect you forever. The words echoed in her mind, intertwining with the realization that Jerome might have an ally inside the company. Ethan stood by the window, his phone pressed to his ear as he coordinated with the police, his voice low but urgent. Maya's fingers tapped nervously on her desk, the weight of suspicion settling over her like a fog. The prime suspect was Clara, the colleague who had openly challenged Maya in front of the team. Her biting comments and barely concealed resentment made her an easy target for doubt. Maya had overheard Clara gossiping about her schedule in the break room, mentioning details like when Maya left for lunch that only a few people like Ethan and Nicole should have known. The coincidence was too stark to ignore. Clara's behavior deepened Maya's unease during a team meeting that afternoon. As Ethan outlined new security protocols, Clara leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, and muttered something under her breath. Maya caught a fragment. All this for her. Then, as if sensing Maya's gaze, Clara met her eyes and quickly looked away. But the damage was done. When the meeting ended, Maya followed Clara to the hallway, her heart pounding. Clara, we need to talk, Maya said, her voice steady despite the storm inside her. How did you know I was meeting Ethan at the cafe last week? That wasn't public knowledge. Clara's eyes widened, then narrowed. What are you accusing me of? She snapped, her voice rising. I don't know anything about your little drama, Maya. You may not be as discreet as you think. Then why mention my schedule in the break room? Maya pressed, stepping closer. You said I was out at 1 p.m. on Tuesday. How did you know that? Clara's face flushed, and she seemed caught off guard for a moment. I overheard someone. Okay, I don't remember who. You're not the only one with problems, Maya. Stop acting like you're so special. Her voice cracked and she stormed off, leaving Maya shaken but unconvinced. Back in Ethan's office, Maya recounted the confrontation. She knows more than she's letting on, Maya said, pacing. But I don't have proof. And if I keep pushing, I'll look paranoid. Ethan rubbed his temples, his expression grim. We can't take chances. I'm starting an internal investigation, but we'll keep it quiet. If Clara's involved, we'll find out. If not, we need to know who else might be leaking information. Maya nodded, but a pang of guilt hit her. What if I'm wrong about her? I don't want to ruin someone's career over a hunch. Ethan's gaze softened. You're not ruining anything. We're just being thorough. Your safety comes first, Maya. He hesitated, then added, I know this is hard. If it's too much, you don't have to be here. I can arrange. No, Maya cut in, her voice firm. I'm not hiding. I've done enough of that. She met his eyes, drawing strength from his quiet support. Let's do this. The investigation began discreetly, with Nicole combing through employee communications and security logs. But the scrutiny only amplified the whispers around the office. Maya felt the weight of every glance, every hushed conversation. She tried to focus on her work, but the fear that Jerome was being fed information by someone close gnawed at her. 2 days later, Nicole called Maya and Ethan to a private meeting. We found something, she said, sliding a printout across the table. It was a log of emails from Clara's work account, including one sent to an external address with details about Maya's recent movements, times she'd left the office meetings she'd attended. The recipient's email was unregistered, a dead end. Maya's stomach churned. So it is her, she whispered. Not necessarily, Nicole said cautiously. The email wasn't explicit. It could have been careless gossip, not intentional. But it's enough to suspend her pending further investigation. Ethan's jaw tightened. I'll handle it. Clara's out of the office until we get answers. The next morning, Clara was called into Ethan's office. Maya waited outside, her nerves frayed. When Clara emerged, her eyes were red, her voice sharp. You think I'm helping that creep? She said, spotting Maya. I didn't do anything but sure blame me. You're the one dragging this company into your mess. Maya's heart sank, guilt and anger warring within her. If you're innocent, why mention my schedule to someone outside? She asked, her voice low. Clara froze, then shook her head. I was venting to a friend. Okay, I didn't know it would get back to him. I don't even know Jerome. Her voice broke and she brushed past Maya, making the air tense. Later, the investigation revealed Clara's friend was an old college acquaintance who'd casually passed her email to a third party. There was no direct link to Jerome, but the carelessness was enough to warrant a formal warning. Clara returned to work, her attitude subdued. In a quiet moment, she approached Maya. I'm sorry, she said, her voice barely audible. I was jealous. You get all this attention from Ethan and I let it get to me. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Maya studied her, seeing genuine remorse. I get it, she said finally. But you need to understand what I'm up against. This isn't a game. Clara nodded, her eyes downcast. I know. I'll do better. The resolution brought little comfort. That evening, a security guard reported an unsettling incident. Someone had attempted to enter the building with a forged employee badge. The attempt failed, but the description matched the hooded figure from the earlier footage. Maya's pulse quickened as she and Ethan reviewed the report. He's getting bolder, she said, her voice tight. Ethan's hand found hers, his grip steady. And we're getting smarter. He's not getting past us. But as they left the office, the question lingered: who else might be watching, waiting to help Jerome strike? The morning sun filtered through the blinds of Maya's office at Cole Industries, but the warmth did little to ease the chill in her bones. The attempted break-in with a forged badge had left her on edge, and the lingering suspicion of an insider feeding Jerome information made every shadow feel like a threat. She tried to focus on her work, but her inbox pinged with a new email that stopped her cold. It was from a supposed client, Bright Future Ventures, inviting her to a private meeting at the upscale Meridian Hotel to discuss a potential partnership. The email was polished and professional, but something felt off. The sender's name was vague and the timing was too convenient. Maya forwarded it to Ethan, who was in a meeting across town. Within minutes, her phone buzzed with his call. "Don't go," he said, his voice tight and urgent. "It's a trap. I checked and Bright Future Ventures doesn't exist. It's got Jerome written all over it." Her pulse quickened, but a spark of defiance flared within her. "I'm tired of running Ethan," she said, gripping the phone. "If it's him, I want to face him. I need to prove to myself I'm not afraid anymore." Ethan's silence was heavy. "Maya, he's dangerous. You don't have to do this to prove anything." "I know," she replied, her voice softening. "But I'm not going alone. Get your security team ready. If it's a trap, we'll catch him in it." Reluctantly, Ethan agreed, arranging for a discreet security detail to accompany her. As Maya prepared for the meeting, her mind raced with memories of Jerome's manipulation. His soft words that always hid a threat, his ability to make her doubt herself. She steeled herself, slipping into a tailored blazer, her hands steady despite the tremor in her chest. This time, she wasn't the woman he'd once controlled. At the Meridian Hotel, the lobby gleamed with marble and chandeliers, but Maya's focus was razor sharp. Two security guards dressed in plain clothes to blend in flanked her as she approached the private meeting room specified in the email. Her heart thudded as she pushed open the door, revealing a dimly lit space with a single figure seated at the far end of a polished table. Jerome. He looked different, thinner, his eyes hollow, but the smirk was unmistakable. "You came," he said, his voice smooth but laced with venom. "I knew you couldn't stay away." Maya's stomach twisted, but she held her ground, her voice steady. "What do you want, Jerome?" "The restraining order says you can't be near me." He leaned forward, his fingers steepled. "You think a piece of paper stops me? You left me, Maya. You made me look like a fool. But I know you. You'll always come back." Her skin prickled as he spoke his words, dragging up memories of apologies she'd made to keep him calm, nights she'd spent justifying his anger. "You're wrong," she said, her voice rising. "I'm not that person anymore. You don't own me." Jerome's smile faltered, but he pressed on his tone, softening in that manipulative way she knew too well. "You used to love me. Remember the good times? We could have that again if you'd stop running." The door behind Maya opened and Ethan stepped in his presence like a shield. "She's done with you, Jerome," he said, his voice low and unyielding. "Leave now, or security will make you." Jerome's eyes narrowed, flicking between Maya and Ethan. "You think you're her hero," he sneered. "She'll drag you down with her just like she did me." Maya's hands clenched into fists, but before she could respond, the security guards moved in their radios, crackling as they signaled for backup. Jerome stood, his smirk returning as he backed toward the door. "This isn't over," he said, his gaze locked on Maya. "You can't hide forever." He slipped out just as hotel security arrived too late to detain him. Maya's knees buckled, and Ethan caught her, his arms steady around her. "You okay?" he asked, his voice soft but urgent. She nodded, though her heart still raced. "I faced him," she whispered. "I didn't back down." Ethan's grip tightened, a mix of pride and worry in his eyes. "You were incredible, but you didn't have to do it alone." Maya stared out the window in the car on the way back, the city lights blurring past. "I needed to," she said finally. "I needed to see him and know I'm not afraid anymore. But thank you for being there." Ethan reached for her hand, his touch grounding her. "Always," he said. They drove silently for a moment, the weight of the encounter settling between them. Then Maya spoke, her voice quiet but firm. I don't want to keep doing this alone, Ethan. I trust you. I need to feel like I'm in control sometimes. He nodded his thumb, brushing over her knuckles. You call the shots. I'm just here to back you up. As they pulled into the coal industries parking lot, a security guard approached with news from the hotel. A witness, a waiter, had seen Jerome speaking with a woman in the lobby before the meeting. The description was vague, but it was enough to reignite their suspicions. He's not working alone, Maya said, her voice tight. Someone's helping him. Ethan's jaw clenched. We'll find out who. But for now, let's get you home. As they walked to her apartment, Maya's mind churned. Jerome's words echoed. This isn't over, but so did Ethan's always. She glanced at him, his steady presence a reminder that she wasn't facing this alone. But the shadow of an unknown accomplice loomed, and Maya knew the fight was far from over. The revelation that Jerome had an accomplice. A woman seen with him at the Meridian Hotel gnawed at Maya as she sat in her apartment, the city's hum a faint backdrop to her racing thoughts. The encounter with Jerome had left her shaken but resolute, yet the idea of someone else helping him twisted the knife deeper. Ethan sat across from her on the couch, his laptop open as he reviewed security footage from the hotel, his brow furrowed in concentration. We'll find her, he said, his voice steady but laced with frustration. The police are cross-referencing descriptions with known associates of Jerome. Maya nodded, her fingers tracing the edge of a coffee mug. I keep thinking I should know who it is, she said softly. Someone who knows me well enough to help him hurt me. Her mind sifted through old friends, colleagues, and anyone who might hold a grudge. Then a name surfaced, one she hadn't thought of in years: Vanessa, her college roommate. They'd been close until Maya left Jerome, when Vanessa's messages had turned cold, accusing Maya of abandoning their friendship. Could she be bitter enough to align with him? The next morning, Ethan's team uncovered a lead. A burner phone linked to the hotel incident had texted a number registered to Vanessa Carter. Maya's heart sank as she showed Ethan a photo from her college days, her and Vanessa arms around each other, smiling at a campus event. She was my best friend, Maya said, her voice heavy. But she always envied what I had with Jerome, even when it was toxic. I thought she'd moved on. Ethan's expression darkened. We need to talk to her. If she's helping him, we need to know why. They arranged a meeting at a neutral location, a quiet cafe downtown. Maya's nerves buzzed as she and Ethan arrived, flanked by a single security guard posing as a customer. Vanessa walked in, her posture stiff, her eyes darting nervously. She looked different from the vibrant friend Maya remembered. Her hair was shorter, her face drawn as if carrying a weight of her own. What do you want, Maya? Vanessa asked, her tone defensive, as she sat across from them. Maya took a deep breath, her voice steady, despite the ache in her chest. Why, Vanessa? Why are you helping Jerome? After everything he did to me? How could you? Vanessa's eyes widened, then narrowed. You think I'm helping him? That's rich coming from you. Her voice dripped with bitterness. You left me behind, Maya. You got your fancy job and new life and forgot about me. Jerome reached out and said you'd painted him as the villain. I wanted you to feel what it's like to lose something. Maya's heart twisted, a mix of betrayal and guilt flooding her. I didn't abandon you, she said, her voice breaking. I was trying to survive. You knew what he did to me. How could you take his side? Vanessa's defiance faltered, her hands trembling on the table. She admitted, I didn't mean for it to go this far, her voice barely above a whisper. He asked me to keep an eye on you, to pass along where you'd be. I thought I was teaching you a lesson, not helping him hurt you. She looked away, tears welling. I liked him okay. Back then, I thought you stole him from me. The confession hit Maya like a punch. She remembered Vanessa's lingering glances at Jerome in college, her subtle flirtations Maya had dismissed as harmless. You were jealous of that? Maya asked, incredulous. He controlled me, Vanessa. He hurt me. And you helped him get to me again. Ethan, who had been silent, leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. Vanessa, you need to tell us everything you told him, every detail. The police are involved, and you could be in serious trouble. Vanessa's shoulders slumped, defeat washing over her. I gave him your work schedule and told him about the hotel meeting. That's it, I swear. I didn't know he'd show up there. She wiped her eyes, her voice small. I'm sorry, Maya. I was angry, but I didn't want this. Maya's throat tightened, torn between rage and pity. She wanted to scream to demand why Vanessa's envy had trumped their friendship, but the broken woman before her made the words catch. I trusted you, Maya said finally, and you used that against me. Ethan placed a hand on Maya's arm, grounding her. What's done is done, he said softly. But now you have a choice, Vanessa. Please help us stop him or face the consequences. Vanessa nodded, promising to cooperate with the police. Maya felt a weight lift as she left, but a hollow ache replaced it. I thought I knew her, she told Ethan as they walked to the car. How do you move past something like this? Ethan's gaze was steady, his voice gentle. You don't have to forgive her, Maya. But you can let go for you, not her. You're stronger than this betrayal. Back at her apartment, Maya sat in silence, processing the encounter. Ethan stayed close, giving her space, but never leaving her side. Finally, she spoke, her voice resolute. I'm done carrying her anger or Jerome's. I want to move forward. Ethan smiled, a quiet pride in his eyes. Then let's do that. Together. Just as they began to plan their next steps with the police, Maya's phone buzzed with a new message from an unknown number. This isn't over. Her breath caught, and she showed it to Ethan, whose jaw tightened. He's been arrested, he said, confused. The police called this morning about a violation of the restraining order. Maya's heart raced. Then who sent this? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan pulled her close, his voice firm. We'll find out. But he's behind bars, Maya. He can't touch you now. As they contacted the police to trace the message, Maya clung to Ethan's words, but the lingering threat left her uneasy. Jerome was in custody, but someone or something was still out there watching. The news of Jerome's arrest brought a fleeting sense of relief to Maya, but the cryptic message, "This isn't over," cast a shadow over her fragile calm. She sat at her desk in Coal Industries, the hum of the office drowned out by the storm in her mind. The police had confirmed Jerome was in custody, charged with violating the restraining order, but the possibility of an accomplice still lingered, and now a new threat emerged. Social media posts, anonymous but vicious, began to spread, painting Maya as a manipulative liar who had fabricated her abuse to ruin Jerome's life. The accusations were relentless, seeping into the office's atmosphere like poison. Maya scrolled through the posts on her phone, her stomach churning at comments like, "She's just after attention, and Jerome's the real victim here." The words clawed at old wounds, reviving the shame she'd felt when Jerome's gaslighting had made her question her own reality. She slammed her phone down, her hands trembling. How could strangers believe his lies? Worse, how had his narrative reached so far while he was behind bars? Ethan noticed her distress during a team meeting and pulled her aside afterward. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice low, his eyes searching hers. She showed him the posts, her voice tight. "He's doing this from jail, Ethan. Or someone's doing it for him. It's like he's everywhere, tearing me apart all over again." Ethan's jaw clenched as he scanned the screen. This stops now, he said, his tone resolute. We're hiring a cyber investigator to trace these accounts, and I'll make a public statement to set the record straight. Maya shook her head, panic rising. No, Ethan. If you speak out, it'll look like you're just defending me because… She hesitated, the words catching. Because we're close. Things will worsen for you and the company. He stepped closer, his voice softening. I don't care about the optics, Maya. You're not facing this alone. But the damage was already spreading. At the next team meeting, a colleague named Tom, usually reserved, spoke up with a skeptical edge. Look, Maya, I don't mean to pry, but these posts, they're raising questions. How do we know what's true? This drama's starting to affect the team. The room went silent. All eyes on Maya. Her face burned, but she forced her voice to stay steady. I understand it's messy, Tom, but I'm not the one spreading lies. I'm trying to do my job and stay safe. Tom shifted uncomfortably, but the doubt in his eyes lingered. Later, alone in the break room, Maya's resolve wavered. The accusations, the whispers, the weight of it all made her question her place at Cole Industries. She found Ethan in his office, her voice barely above a whisper. I may leave, Ethan. Resign. I don't want to drag you or the company down with me. Ethan's eyes widened, and he crossed the room in 2 strides. No way, he said firmly. You're not running. You've earned your place here, Maya. Jerome doesn't get to take that from you. She looked away, tears stinging her eyes. But the rumors, the posts, they're making me out to be the villain. I feel like I'm losing myself again. He gently tilted her chin, up his gaze, unwavering. You're not losing anything. You're stronger than his lies, and I'm not letting you walk away from what you've built here. We'll fight this together. His words steadied her, but the pressure continued to mount. That afternoon, Ethan called a press conference, a bold move Maya had tried to dissuade him from. Standing before a small group of reporters, he addressed the rumors head-on. He said that Maya Thompson is an exceptional employee and a valued member of Cole Industries, and his voice is clear and commanding. The allegations against her are baseless, spread by someone attempting to deflect from their own actions. We've filed a defamation lawsuit against the individual responsible, and we stand by Maya unequivocally. The statement was a lifeline, but it didn't silence the doubters. Some colleagues offered quiet support, but others, swayed by the online vitriol, kept their distance. Maya felt the isolation keenly, her confidence shaken. Yet Ethan's unwavering support anchored her. After the press conference, he found her in her office, closing the door behind him. You okay? He asked, his voice gentle. She nodded, though her eyes betrayed her exhaustion. Thank you for what you said out there. It means more than you know. He smiled, a hint of relief in his expression. You're worth it, Maya. Always. Their moment was interrupted by a call from her grandmother, Dorothy. Maya's heart leapt as the hospital's name flashed on her screen. Ms. Thompson, the nurse said. Your grandmother had a fall. She's stable, but she's in the ER. Can you come? Maya's breath caught fear gripping her. Is she okay? She asked, her voice trembling. She's conscious and asking for you. The nurse replied, It's just a precaution. Maya hung up, her mind racing. Was this another of Jerome's schemes, or a cruel coincidence? She looked at Ethan, who was already grabbing his keys. He said, I'm coming with you, leaving no room for argument. As they sped toward the hospital, Maya's thoughts spiraled. Jerome was in jail, but his reach seemed endless. Had he orchestrated this to hurt her family? The uncertainty clawed at her, but Ethan's steady presence beside her kept her grounded. He said, We'll get through this, his hand brushing hers one step at a time. But as they pulled into the hospital parking lot, Maya couldn't shake the fear that Jerome's shadow was still growing, reaching for the people she loved most. The hospital's sterile scent and the rhythmic beep of machines greeted Maya as she rushed through the sliding doors, her heart pounding with dread. The call about her grandmother Dorothy's fall had sent her into a spiral of fear, her mind conjuring images of Jerome's involvement, despite his arrest. Ethan followed close behind his presence, a steady anchor, as they navigated the bustling ER. Maya's hands trembled as she approached the reception desk, her voice tight. "I'm here for Dorothy Thompson. Where is she?" The nurse, a calm woman with a clipboard, checked her screen. "She's in room 12 stable. You can go in, but only 2 visitors at a time." Maya nodded, barely hearing the words, as she hurried down the hall. Inside the room, Dorothy lay in a hospital bed, her face pale, but her eyes bright with her usual spark. A brace wrapped her ankle, and an IV dripped steadily at her side. "Oh, Maya, don't you look like you've seen a ghost?" Dorothy said, her voice warm but teasing. "It's just a little sprain. I tripped over that darn rug in the living room." Relief flooded Maya, though her chest still felt tight. She sank into the chair beside the bed, grasping Dorothy's hand. "You scared me," she said, her voice cracking. I thought maybe he had something to do with this." Dorothy's expression softened, her grip tightening. "That boy's locked up, Maya. This was just me being clumsy. Don't let him haunt you from a jail cell." Ethan stood near the door, giving them space but staying close. Maya glanced at him, grateful for his quiet support. She turned back to Dorothy, her voice low. "I'm trying, Gran, but it feels like he's everywhere. The messages, the posts, now this. I can't help but wonder." Dorothy patted her hand, her eyes sharp. "Listen to me. You've got a good man here," she said, nodding toward Ethan, "and a family who loves you. Jerome can't take that away unless you let him. You're stronger than his nonsense, Maya. Always have been." The words settled over Maya like a warm blanket, easing the knot in her chest. She managed a small smile. "You always know what to say." Dorothy chuckled, then winced slightly as she shifted. "Well, I've had years of practice. Now tell me, when will you two stop dancing around each other and go on a proper date? You look like a couple already." Maya's cheeks flushed, and she glanced at Ethan, who raised an eyebrow, a playful grin tugging at his lips. "She's got a point," he said, stepping closer. "We do make a good team." The light moment was interrupted by a nagging thought. Maya turned to the nurse who entered to check Dorothy's chart. "Who called me about the fall?" she asked. "Was it you?" The nurse frowned, checking her notes. "No, it came from an outside line. We assumed it was a neighbor or friend." Maya's stomach dropped. She exchanged a look with Ethan, whose expression hardened. "We need to trace that call," he said quietly, stepping into the hall to phone the police. Back in the room, Maya stayed with Dorothy, her mind racing. The call felt like another thread in Jerome's web, even if he was behind bars. When Ethan returned, his face was grim. "The police are looking into it, but the number was a burner. No trace yet." Dorothy, overhearing, waved a hand dismissively. Enough of this gloom. "Maya, you listen to me. You have a life to live, and it won't wait for that fool to stop playing games. You and Ethan go out and have some fun. Don't let fear keep you locked up." Maya hesitated, torn between her worry and Dorothy's insistence. But her grandmother's words struck a chord. She'd spent too long letting Jerome's shadow dictate her life. "You're right," she said finally. "I'm not hiding anymore." Ethan's eyes softened. "That's the spirit. How about dinner tomorrow? Somewhere quiet, just us." Maya nodded, a flicker of warmth cutting through her anxiety. "I'd like that." As they left the hospital, Dorothy's teasing echoed in Maya's mind, mingling with a conversation she hadn't meant for Ethan to hear. Earlier, in a moment of vulnerability, She'd told Dorothy she was scared to let Ethan get too close, afraid her past would taint their future. Now she realized Ethan had overheard his quiet demeanor, hiding a flicker of hurt. In the car, she turned to him. She said softly, "I'm sorry if I made you think I don't trust you. It's not about you. I'm just scared of dragging you into my mess." Ethan's hands tightened on the steering wheel, his voice gentle but firm. "Maya, I chose to be here. I'm not going anywhere. Your mess is mine too, if you'll let it be." The sincerity in his words melted her defenses. She reached for his hand, squeezing it. "Okay," she said, her voice steady. "Let's do this together." Dorothy's voice broke through her thoughts, a memory of her teasing. "Go on a real date, you two. Don't make an old lady wait." Maya smiled, feeling lighter despite the uncertainty. But as they drove back, Ethan's phone buzzed with a message from the police. They found something he said, his voice tense. Jerome was spotted near the hospital the night Dorothy fell. He wasn't supposed to be there. He was out on bail before his latest arrest. Maya's breath caught fear creeping back. "He's still reaching for me," she whispered, even from jail. Ethan's hand found hers, his grip steady. "He's not getting to you. Not while I'm here." Maya clung to his promise as they pulled into her apartment complex, but the hospital sighting gnawed at her. Jerome's shadow was long and even behind bars. He seemed to find ways to haunt her. The fluorescent lights of the courthouse buzzed faintly as Maya sat in the waiting area, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. The preliminary hearing for Jerome's charges violation of the restraining order, harassment, and stalking was about to begin, and the weight of facing him again pressed heavily on her chest. Ethan sat beside her, his presence steady but quiet, respecting her need for space. The past weeks had been a whirlwind of threats, betrayals, and lingering fear, but today felt like a pivot point. With the help of their lawyer, Ms. Harper, a sharp-witted woman with a no-nonsense demeanor, they had built a strong case. Yet Maya's nerves hummed with doubt. Jerome had always been slippery, always found a way to twist the truth. Inside the courtroom, Maya's stomach churned as Jerome was led in handcuffed but composed. His eyes locked onto hers, a flicker of that familiar, manipulative glint, making her skin crawl. She forced herself to look away, focusing on Ms. Harper's calm explanation of the charges. But when Jerome's lawyer, a slick man in an expensive suit, stood to speak, Maya's heart sank. "Your Honor," he began, "my client has been unfairly targeted by Ms. Thompson's accusations, driven by personal vendettas and the influence of her employer, Mr. Cole, who has a clear bias." The accusations stung, painting Ethan's support as something manipulative. Maya glanced at him, seeing his jaw tighten, but he remained silent, his hand brushing hers under the table. She wanted to speak and defend them both, but Ms. Harper warned her to stay composed. "Let the evidence speak," she'd said. Still, the lawyer's words echoed Maya's fears. Her fight against Jerome would taint Ethan's reputation. As the hearing progressed, Ms. Harper presented a meticulous timeline. Text messages, the necklace delivered to Maya's office, security footage of the hooded figure near Cole Industries. But Jerome's lawyer countered with a smooth narrative, claiming the messages were misunderstood and the necklace a sentimental gesture. Maya's hands clenched, her breath shallow. "He's going to get away with it," she whispered to Ethan, her voice trembling. "I'm not strong enough for this." Ethan leaned close, his voice low and firm. "You are, Maya. You've faced him before, and you're doing it now. We've got this." Just as her resolve wavered, a surprise shifted the room's dynamic. Ms. Harper called a new witness, Rachel, a former colleague of Jerome's from his previous job. Rachel, a nervous woman with a soft voice, took the stand and recounted her own experience with Jerome's controlling behavior. intimidating messages, threats, when she tried to leave their brief relationship. She said he made me feel like I was nothing, her voice breaking. I believe Ms. Thompson, because I've been there. The courtroom fell silent, the weight of Rachel's testimony sinking in. Maya's eyes stung with tears, not just for herself, but for Rachel, for every woman Jerome had hurt. She reached for Ethan's hand, squeezing it tightly. His steady gaze met hers, a silent promise that they were in this together. Jerome's lawyer scrambled, objecting to the relevance of Rachel's testimony, but the judge allowed it, noting its pattern of behavior. Ms. Harper pulled Maya and Ethan aside as the hearing adjourned for the day. This changes things, she said, her voice confident. Rachel's testimony strengthens our case. We're pushing for a full trial. With this, we've got a real shot at a conviction. Outside the courthouse, Maya felt a mix of relief and dread. What if he gets out again? She asked Ethan, her voice barely above a whisper. He always finds a way. Ethan's expression was resolute. Not this time. We've got evidence, witnesses, and the truth. He's running out of moves. As they walked to the car, a court officer approached, his face grim. Ms. Thompson, we found this in the mailroom, addressed to you. He handed her a plain envelope, her name scrawled in unfamiliar handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper, the words chillingly familiar. You'll never escape me. No signature, but the intent was clear. Maya's breath caught, and she handed the letter to Ethan, whose eyes darkened. This was sent from the jail, he said, noting the postmark. He's still trying to get to you. Ms. Harper, overhearing, took the letter. This is another violation, she said firmly. We'll add it to the charges. He's digging his own grave. Back at Ethan's apartment, where Maya had been staying for safety, she sat on the couch, the letter's words echoing in her mind. Ethan sat beside her, his voice gentle. You did something incredible today, Maya. You stood up to him and gave Rachel a voice too. That's a strength. She looked at him, her heart heavy but warming under his gaze. I couldn't have done it without you, she admitted. But I'm still scared. What if he gets out before the trial? Ethan took her hand, his grip steady. Then we'll be ready. You're not facing him alone. Maya clung to that promise as night fell, but the letter's threat lingered. Jerome was cornered, but a cornered animal was dangerous. She leaned against Ethan, drawing strength from his presence, knowing the fight was far from over, but feeling for the first time that she might win. Rain lashed against the windows of Maya's apartment, the storm outside mirroring the turmoil within her. The preliminary hearing bolstered her hope with Rachel's testimony and Jerome's threatening letter, strengthening their case. But the news that he'd been re-released on bail pending the full trial sent a chill through her. She sat on her couch clutching a mug of tea, her eyes darting to the locked door as thunder rumbled. Ethan had insisted on staying nearby, working from her living room to keep her company, his laptop casting a soft glow in the dim space. A sudden, violent pounding on the door shattered the quiet. Maya's heart leapt into her throat, the mug slipping from her hands and breaking on the floor. Maya Jerome's voice cut through the storm, raw and furious. Open the door. You can't keep running from me. Her breath caught panic flooding her. She froze her body instinctively, shrinking as memories of his rage surged back. Ethan was on his feet instantly, his phone already in hand as he dialed 911. Stay back, he whispered, guiding her toward the kitchen away from the door. His voice was calm but urgent, his eyes locked on hers. You're safe. I'm here. The pounding grew louder, Jerome's shouts escalating. Can you lock me out? You're nothing without me. Each word was a blow, but Maya clung to Ethan's steady presence, her hands trembling as she gripped his arm. Ethan babbled into the phone, giving the operator their address and describing the situation. "He's violating a restraining order," he said, his voice firm. "We need officers here now." He hung up and turned to Maya, his expression resolute. "The police are on their way. He's not getting in." But Jerome's rage didn't relent. The door rattled under his fists, the lock holding but creaking ominously. Maya's gaze fell on a framed photo of her and Dorothy on the counter, and in her panic, she knocked it over the glass, cracking as it hit the floor. The sound symbolized everything she feared: losing her family, her safety, her newfound strength. "I can't do this," she whispered, her voice breaking. Ethan knelt beside her, his hands steady on her shoulders. "You are doing this, Maya. You're stronger than he'll ever be. He's not taking you from me or from Dorothy." Before she could respond, headlights flashed through the window and the sound of sirens pierced the storm. Jerome's shouts faltered, replaced by the screech of tires as he tried to flee, but the police were faster. Maya peered through the blinds, her heart pounding as officers surrounded Jerome in the rain-soaked parking lot. He struggled briefly, shouting curses, but they cuffed him and forced him into a patrol car. Ethan pulled Maya into his arms as the sirens faded, her body shaking with fear and relief. "It's over," he murmured, his voice soft against her hair. "He's gone." She clung to him, tears streaming down her face, but for the first time, they weren't tears of fear. They were released, a flood of everything she'd held back. "I thought I'd lose everything," she said, her voice muffled against his chest. "The photo? Dorothy? You?" Ethan pulled back, cupping her face gently. "You haven't lost anything. We're here, Maya, and we're not going anywhere." He glanced at the broken frame on the floor, his expression softening. "We'll fix that photo. We'll fix all of this." They sat together on the floor, the storm still raging outside, but no longer mirrored within her. Maya picked up the cracked frame, her fingers tracing the image of her and Dorothy smiling. "This was from last Christmas," she said quietly. "She made me promise to keep fighting for myself. I didn't realize how hard that would be." Ethan's hand covered hers, his touch warm. "You kept that promise, and you're not fighting alone." The police returned to take their statements, confirming Jerome's arrest for violating the restraining order and making criminal threats. The officer, a stern woman named Detective Ruiz, was blunt. She said that with his history and this incident, he's looking at serious time. "We've got the hotel encounter, the letter from jail, and now this. He's not slipping through again." Maya nodded, the words sinking in, but not entirely dispelling her fear. "What if he finds a way to keep coming after me?" she asked, her voice small. Ruiz's expression softened. "He's in custody, and we're pushing for no bail this time. We're also investigating his communications from jail. If he's got someone helping him, we'll find them." As the officers left, Maya leaned against Ethan, exhaustion settling over her. The broken frame still sat on the counter, reminding her of the night's chaos and resilience. "I want to believe it's over," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm still scared." Ethan's arm tightened around her. "You don't have to stop being scared. Just don't let it stop you. You faced him tonight, Maya. That's everything." She looked up at him, his steady gaze anchoring her. For the first time in years, she felt a flicker of proper safety, not just from Jerome's absence, but from the strength she'd found within herself, bolstered by Ethan's unwavering support. As the rain slowed to a drizzle, she knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to keep fighting for herself, Dorothy, and the future she was beginning to see with Ethan. The storm that had shaken Maya's apartment the night of Jerome's arrest had passed, leaving a crisp clarity in the air that mirrored her newfound resolve. With Jerome back in custody, facing serious charges, Maya felt a weight lift, allowing her to breathe freely, for the first time in months. The threats, the fear, the constant looking over her shoulder, hadn't vanished, but they no longer defined her. Ethan's unwavering presence had been her anchor, and now, with a rare moment of peace, she felt ready to explore what lay between them. Ethan suggested a break from the chaos, a picnic by Lakeview Park, a serene spot outside the city, where the water sparkled under the late afternoon sun. Maya agreed, her heart fluttering with a mix of nerves and excitement. They spread a blanket under a sprawling oak, the air filled with the scent of grass and wildflowers. Ethan unpacked a basket of sandwiches, fruit, and iced tea, his movements deliberate but relaxed. As they ate, he turned to her, his eyes soft but intense. "Maya, I need to tell you something," he said, his voice low. "I've been falling for you since that day in the cafe, when you grabbed my sleeve and looked at me like I was the only one who could help. I love you." The words hung between them, warm and unguarded. Maya's breath caught her heart racing with joy and fear. She'd felt the pull toward him for weeks, but admitting it meant letting go of the walls she'd built to protect herself. "Ethan," she said, her voice trembling, "I feel it too. But I'm scared. My past. It's messy, and I don't want to hurt you." He reached for her hand, his touch steady. "You're not your past, Maya. And I'm not afraid of mess. I want you." Tears pricked her eyes, but she smiled, leaning into his warmth. "Okay," she whispered. "I love you too." The moment felt like a new beginning, fragile but full of promise. They spent the afternoon talking and laughing, the weight of Jerome's threats fading in the glow of their connection. For the first time, Maya let herself imagine a future unmarred by fear, a future with Ethan. But the peace was short-lived. Maya's newfound confidence was tested at a company event that evening, a charity gala hosted by Cole Industries. She stood elegantly in a navy dress beside Ethan, greeting guests with a smile. Across the room, she noticed Ethan speaking with a striking woman in a red gown, her laughter bright as she touched his arm. The woman introduced herself to a colleague as someone special to Ethan, her words carrying just far enough for Maya to hear. Her stomach twisted, old insecurities flaring. Was Ethan hiding something? Had she been too quick to trust? Without a word, Maya slipped out to the balcony, the cool night air soothing her racing thoughts. She stared at the city lights, her mind spiraling. Moments later, Ethan found her, his brow furrowed with concern. "Maya, what's wrong? You left so suddenly." She turned, her voice sharp with hurt. "Who was that woman, Ethan?" she said. "She's someone special to you. Are you keeping things from me?" Ethan's eyes widened, then softened with realization. "That was Emily, my cousin," he said, stepping closer. "She's visiting from out of town. She talked about how I helped her through a tough time years ago. That's all she meant. I promise there's no one else." Maya's cheeks burned with embarrassment, her anger deflating. "I'm sorry," she said, looking down. "I saw you two and I got scared. I'm not used to this, trusting someone." Ethan smiled, his hand brushing her cheek. "I like that you care enough to get jealous," he teased gently. "But you don't have to worry. I'm all in, Maya, just you." She laughed, the tension easing as she leaned into his touch. "I'm such an idiot." "No, you're human," he said, his voice warm. "And I love every part of you." They returned to the gala hand in hand, the moment a quiet victory over her doubts. Later, under the stars by the lake, where they'd picnicked, Ethan pulled her close, his lips brushing her forehead in a tender kiss. "We're building something tangible," he said, "no matter what comes next." But the next morning, reality intruded. Maya received a call from Ms. Harper, their lawyer, whose voice was tense. Jerome's team is pushing for a plea deal, she said. They're offering a reduced sentence in exchange for a guilty plea on lesser charges. The DA's considering it, but we can fight it. It's your call, Maya. Maya's heart sank, the familiar dread creeping back. A reduced sentence meant Jerome could be out sooner, free to haunt her again. She looked at Ethan, who was reviewing case files with her, his expression grim. "What do you want to do?" he asked, his voice steady. She took a deep breath, her resolve hardening. "We fight," she said. "He doesn't get to walk away easily, not after everything." Ethan nodded, pride in his eyes. "Then we fight." As they prepared for the upcoming trial, Maya clung to the memory of their picnic, Ethan's confession, and the love beginning to bloom. Jerome's shadow still loomed, but Maya felt ready to face it for the first time, not just for herself, but for the future she dared to build with Ethan. The courtroom was a sea of murmurs as Maya stood at the witness stand, her heart pounding, but her voice steady. The final trial against Jerome had arrived, culminating in months of fear, evidence, and resilience. The charges, stalking, harassment, violation of a restraining order, and criminal threats hung heavy in the air. Ethan sat in the front row, his eyes locked on hers, a silent pillar of strength. Dorothy, seated beside him, dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief, her ankle brace a reminder of the scare that had briefly shaken them all. Maya took a deep breath, her statement in hand, ready to face the man who had once controlled her life. Jerome sat across the room, his gaze fixed on her, a flicker of desperation in his eyes. His lawyer had tried to paint him as a misunderstood man, wronged by Maya's accusations. Still, the evidence was overwhelming: text messages, the necklace, security footage, Rachel's testimony, and the night he'd pounded on Maya's door. Yet as Maya began to speak, Jerome leaned forward, his expression softening into the manipulative plea she knew too well. "Maya, you know I didn't mean it," he mouthed silently, his eyes begging for forgiveness. Her stomach twisted, old instincts urging her to falter, to doubt herself. But she glanced at Ethan, his unwavering support grounding her, and at Dorothy, whose proud nod reminded her of her strength. "My name is Maya Thompson," she began, her voice clear and strong. "For years I lived in fear of Jerome Carter. He controlled me, manipulated me, and made me believe I was nothing. But I'm not that person anymore. I'm here to tell the truth, not just for me, but for every woman he's hurt. He doesn't get to control my story anymore." The room was silent, her words resonating with a power that surprised even her. In the gallery, Rachel gave her a small smile, and Ethan's eyes shone with pride. When Jerome's lawyer cross-examined her, trying to twist her words, Maya held firm, her voice never wavering. The judge's gavel fell, and after deliberation, the verdict came guilty on all counts. Jerome was sentenced to 5 years with no possibility of early release due to his repeated violations. As Jerome was led away, he turned to Maya one last time, his eyes cold but defeated. She met his gaze, unflinching, and felt a weight lift. For the first time, she saw him not as a monster, but as a man who had lost his power over her. Ethan's hand found hers as they left the courtroom, his voice soft. "You did it, Maya. You won." She smiled, tears of relief brimming. "We did it." The victory was bittersweet, tempered by the scars Jerome had left. But as spring bloomed, so did hope. Ethan planned a surprise for Maya, whisking her to a rooftop overlooking the city, where fairy lights twinkled against the night sky. Under the stars, he dropped to one knee, a simple ring glinting in his hand. "Maya, you fought so hard for your freedom, and I want to build a future with you, one filled with love, not fear. Will you marry me?" Her heart swelled, the fear that had once held her back, replaced by certainty. "Yes," she whispered, kissing him as the city sparkled below. The wedding occurred in a small, ivy-draped church, its stained glass windows casting a warm glow. Dorothy, fully recovered, walked Maya down the aisle, her eyes misty with pride. She whispered, "I told you you'd find happiness." She squeezed Maya's hand. Maya's white gown shimmered, her smile radiant, as she met Ethan at the altar, his gaze filled with love. The ceremony was intimate, filled with laughter, tears, and vows that promised a lifetime of partnership. At the reception, under a canopy of white roses and candlelight, Maya and Ethan shared their first dance to a soft melody, their steps light and unburdened. Dorothy watched from a nearby table, her smile wide. "I knew it," she said to a guest, her voice teasing. Those two were meant to be. As they swayed, Ethan leaned close, his voice a whisper. "You're my home, Maya. Always." She smiled, her heart full. "And you're mine." The night ended with them slipping away under a shower of petals, the moon casting a silver glow. Maya looked at Ethan, knowing she hadn't just escaped her past. She'd built a future brighter than she'd ever dared dream. If this story of courage and love moved you, give it a thumbs up, share your thoughts in the comments, and join our community by subscribing to more heartfelt journeys.